do a presentation, and this could be in the office, on the stage. There's no telling. It's time to present. And you want to, I like to say, knock the socks off your audience. My guest today, Diane, she likes to say, do that knockout presentation. So to get us started really quick, welcome, Diane.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good to be here.
Yeah, so tell the audience why presentations matter, please.
Well, they're the lifeblood of your career these days. You can't afford to be without presentations. You can't avoid the skill any longer. And there are a few reasons for that. The world has changed over the years and it has become a lot more competitive and commoditized, so that it's just a matter of time before your competitors can duplicate your product or service. So what sets you apart is your presentation. And so it behooves all of us to really get much better at this skill. There's also a return on investment, a dollars and cents return when you're a good presenter. If you think about it, you get better job interviews, you get promoted, you make more sales. It's definitely a leadership skill. So there's so much value to being a good presenter. And today, more than ever before, we now have virtual presentations. So what I do with people, Tiffany, is I help them develop screen presence and stage presence. You need both. So for those people who are thinking, I got away with this, I don't stand in front of an audience. Well, you do. Your meetings are now virtual, and that is a presentation. That is a mistake to think that it's not public speaking. It is.
So I love that. We're going to be talking about screen presentation, screen presence and stage presence. Just give us a rundown. What are the different kind of presentations people might be doing? Because they may not be thinking that what they're doing is a presentation. So we want to get them in the mindset that they're presenting and all the time.
Yes. And what did I used to say? Life is a presentation. Everything, in fact, is a presentation of some sort. So one-on-one, when you're having a conversation, you're presenting yourself. So it's a dialogue, hopefully. Networking meetings, you're making a presentation. That key presentation is your elevator pitch. And I've heard so many bad ones, as I know you have. Yeah, I was just coaching an executive on a fireside chat. She was interviewing on stage the CEO. So he gave his presentation, they sat down, and then they had this fireside chat. You can't just chat. There is a process and a preparation that goes in front of that. There's the motivational speech, whether you're a professional speaker or a minister or a leader trying to rally the troops. There is the meeting update. That is a presentation, and everybody does that when you're around a table and your manager says, well, what's happening? Give us an update. That's a presentation not to be taken lightly. When you propose an idea, when you're in a job interview, there are so many different presentations. There's the Q&A, which is a presentation. And there are more that I'm not, I can't spend the whole time talking about.
Yeah, we can't just talk about the types of presentations, but I at least wanted to get people's mindsets into this idea of we are doing presentations all the time. Mm-hmm. Same thing. I was talking to somebody the other day and I'm like, we are always selling. They're like, no, I never sell. I'm like, have you never tried to convince your husband what you want for dinner? That's selling.
Yes, it is.
You convinced them what you want to watch on TV. That's selling. We do presentations and selling all the time. So I'm super excited you're here to share with us some tips. Though for those of you that it's their first time seeing Diane, I want to introduce her, tell you a little bit more about her. I'm going to give you a little of her bio now, a little bit later. So Diane Diresta is a CSP, and I'll tell you what that means in a bit. She is the founder and CEO of Diresta Communications, a New York City consultancy serving business leaders to deliver high-stakes presentations, whether one-on-one in front of a crowd, from an electric platform. I mean, because electronic. See, I can't even talk. The joys of life.
Well, in front of a cloud. Every time you record it on Zoom, you are in the cloud. So yes.
She's the author of Knockout Presentations, How to Deliver Your Message with Power, Punch, and Pizzazz, an Amazon.com category bestseller. And she's spoken on 4 continents. And she has a unique ability to get to the core of the message and translate complexity into simplicity, which I think is major important. So I'm excited for you to share some tips with us on creating that stage presence, that screen presence, how to really knock out the audience. I love that. Though for audience, those of you watching us live, do feel free to leave a comment, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn. Let us know if you have any thoughts or comments today. Do know that if you are on Facebook, you either need to go to this website that is here on the screen and pair your Facebook to Restream, or just put your name in the comment, and then that way we can give you credit and answer whatever questions you may have. All right, Diane, the stage is yours, the virtual stage that we have here on Restream. So tell us, how do we have knockout presentations?
Well, simplicity is the key. You mentioned that earlier, and I like to keep things simple. So the first thing is, what is the formula? What are the things that are important to know? And I call it the YAM formula, YAM. Know yourself, know your audience, and know your message. And it's really that simple. So first, who are you as a package of skills? What is your style? What is your brand? And then be true to that. Be you. Show up as you, because authenticity is what's valued. Secondly, who's your audience? And this is the place where I find a lot of people, my clients, don't spend enough time. So that's why when you do a standard dog and pony show, it can go well with one group and not so much for another. So you always want to know a lot about your audience and how they like to receive information. And then number 3, know your message and know it cold. Don't memorize, familiarize. And so what that means is have key message points or bullets, and know your key messages so you can speak to them without sounding rehearsed. And this allows you to be conversational. So YAM, know yourself, know your audience, and know your message. So that's the overview, and everybody can do that. Everybody can identify who they are and be true to themselves. Everybody can analyze the audience and then know their message. Apart from that, then there's the medium. And so, or I should say the media. Are you speaking on a screen, or are you live in person? And if you're live in person, is it on a stage, on a big stage, or are you in a meeting room? Are you standing or sitting? And so all of these play into how much you need to do to have that knockout punch during the presentation. So let's talk about a couple of differences. One of the challenges with stage presence versus screen presence is eye contact. They're totally different, right? You know, as a speaker. So when you're in front of a live audience, if it's a large audience, you want to look at key people in the room because you want that one-on-one experience. How do you do that? By breaking the room up into sections and looking at someone over here, someone in the center, someone on the side. But notice that doesn't look very good on a screen. So on the screen, you have one point of contact, the lens. You want to make love to the lens. And this is really hard. I've been saying for years, even before Zoom was in existence, that the future speaker would need to have broadcasting skills. And here we are. So think of this as a satellite interview. When you're talking to someone, I know you're down here in that little thumbnail, but I'm talking to the screen because I want to have an eye connection with the group. So that's one major shift that we need to make. And people have a hard time when they're on a virtual platform.
It is hard because we're so used to, like, let me look at the person that I'm talking to, which I'm doing now, which isn't good. Let me look at myself. I don't know about y'all. I do have a tendency to love to look at myself. Like, what am I doing? It's not a mirror. So it's hard sometimes. So do you have any tips for people on how to continuously look at the camera, how to make love to the camera, how to have that engagement when you're like, I'm looking at the camera. I don't actually see the people here, but when I see the people here, I'm not looking at the camera. Tips for us?
It takes practice, Tiffany, but here's what I recommend. When you're speaking to the group, you want it to look like you're looking directly at them and making that eye connection. So look at the lens. Then when someone's speaking to you, it's more appropriate to look at the person's face because you want to get their nonverbals. You want to get a sense of how they're coming across. So that gives you a little break. But the other thing is there are a couple of tools. One of them is called CenterCam. And CenterCam is a thin lever that you hook on your laptop, and it has a built-in webcam. And
Ah,
so it's in the center. And so you're making eye contact directly to the lens, but you're in the center. So it's a little bit more comfortable. The other one is called PlexiCam, and that's similar. It's a thicker lucite hook that you hook on, but then you put your own camcorder or your webcam there. And again, they both hang over so that the camcorder is in the middle of the screen. So you would be looking here. Now, I did read something last year that I don't remember the company, but they were working on a built-in camera in the middle of the screen.
oh
And
wow.
it will not be available for us, but eventually it will be. And so that would be ideal when you can look directly in the middle of the screen.
Gotcha, gotcha. Excellent. I love that. I know that's something that people struggle with quite frequently.
And Tiffany, if you want to put it in the chat, it's uh, centercam.com, CENTER, cam.com, and Plexicam, PLEXICAM.com, Plexicam.com and centercam.com. And those are great tools that you can get online. And they make your screen presence a little easier.
And that's really the name of the game most of the time, is easier. We don't necessarily need it to be hard and complicated. But so give us another tip on how it's easier for us to deliver these knockout presentations, if you don't mind.
Well, you said the right word. Keep it simple. And I find that we overcomplicate. We make it more complicated than it is. So one of the big issues is too much detail.
Mm.
People do these data dumps, and here's why. It comes from very pure intention. It's, if I can tell them everything I know, they'll be so much more enriched. But no, that's not the impact. Actually, less is more. So what you want to do is tell them what they need to know, not everything that you know. So tell them only what they need to know, not everything you know, and it'll be simpler. They'll be able to digest it more. That's less that you have to remember. And I know this has been said many, many times, and it's true. It's all about your preparation. And it's 90% preparation and 10% delivery. So that's why the two of us can laugh when someone will say, "You want to charge me how much for an hour speech?" It's not. If you knew what goes into the development, the preparation, the rehearsal, and all of that, there's a lot of hours to do that
Mhm.
10-minute or hour presentation. So put the time in, practice. And here's another tip. When you have a virtual platform, whether it's Teams or Zoom, why don't you practice on that? You can record yourself and see how other people are seeing you. And that gives you a lot of success because you've done it a number of times and you're not second guessing yourself. So, those are a few tips on making it simple. I like the rule of three benefits, three main ideas, three main points. And if you remember three, it'll keep it simple. More
Mm.
than that, it's hard for people to remember.
Yeah, and so I was watching a presentation a week or two ago. I watch lots of presentations, and I wasn't watching it to critique. Sometimes people are like, "Tiffany, so what pointers did you have for me on my presentation?" And I don't know about you, but unless somebody asks me up front to critique, I'm rarely watching it from a perspective of what are they doing right or wrong. Do you find yourself always kind of looking for that, or are you more just enjoying the presentation because you're not critiquing?
No, I'm not always critiquing. I'm enjoying the presentation. I tend to critique if somebody is really boring or they're not delivering what they promised. If it turns out to be a big sales
Oh,
pitch,
yeah.
then I'm critiquing. But I remember as you spoke, there was a woman I was working with, and human resources said, "This woman's getting very nervous. I think she's a pretty good speaker, Diane, but she wants a coach." So I said, "Okay, fine." So I asked her to stand up and give me a couple of minutes of presentation. And I remember she said, "I liked you until now." But she was making herself nervous, and it turned out that she wasn't. She was
Mm.
much better than she thought she was. So we need to get out of our own way. And you can't, here's another tip. You can't really trust your own perception, because when you're in front, right? You can't. You're in front of a group, you think you're bombing or you think you're great, and it's not the case. So that's why recording yourself's key, because it's more objective, and also asking someone you trust.
Yeah.
They'll
I
tell you.
love, and Zoom makes it so easy. You can get a free Zoom account. It's 40 minutes, I think, and that's
Mhm.
plenty of presentation. Record it and watch yourself. I've learned, like I used to when I was speaking, I would play with my ring quite a bit, especially when I was nervous, and I noticed
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And a decade or so ago, I was speaking and I was watching my recording, and I noticed I kept doing this. Well, for the first 30 years of my life, I had long hair. It was cut, it was short. I no longer had long hair, but it was a nervous habit of pushing my hair back, and I didn't have the hair anymore. And so I picked up on some funky little things that I was doing that others may or may not have. But I'm like, okay, like with Zoom, I can play. I have a fidget ring because I'm a fidgeter, but I can play with it below the camera and nobody notices. And
Right.
yeah, that's one of my tales. But I didn't notice that until I had watched myself on camera. So I love the idea of putting yourself on camera.
That
And
makes sense. That makes sense because you have nervous energy and it needs to go someplace. And so that's a soothing movement. And the benefit of the virtual stage is you can do that below as long as you're not giving us a hint.
right.
And it's a way of displacing some of the nervous energy. And that's a big issue. People come to me for two main reasons. Number one is always confidence. How can I be a more confident presenter? And the second one is clarity. How can I say this in a way that's clear, impactful, meaningful, and dynamic? So, in terms of nervousness, people don't always realize that all nervousness is energy. Energy's a good thing. And so what you want to do is direct your energy. So it's better to put it into gestures because you're pushing it out in a more appropriate way and you're releasing it. But here's the thing that people don't always realize. When you're nervous, when you're very nervous, you're being self-centered because it's all about me, myself, and I. Oh, I hope I don't trip. Oh, I hope I don't lose my train of thought. Get over yourself. It's not about you. It's about them, the audience. And so where you want your mind to be is on them. How can I make this clear and simple? How can I make them feel comfortable? And change your focus because your nervousness is going to back up on you. But when you are in that state of nervousness, I know right away you're in the future. Your mind is in the future because you're imagining all the things that go wrong. So what do? Bring yourself back into the present moment. How do you come back? Through the breath. And that's why we work on breathing. Okay, now you're feeling your body. Bring it back. And when I work with people, we do breathing exercises as part of the prep.
That makes total sense. And I'm a high energy person. So this is Speedy the Turtle, who is here to remind me to slow down right by the camera, because I do have a tendency to let my nervous energy come out. And then it's like, and it's not that it's not that it's nerves like, oh my gosh, what if I mess up? Because y'all saw me. I've already messed up once or 4 times today. It's not the end of the world, but I do just have that energy going. And I had to watch myself a lot when I was in person because I would pace too much and you got to calm it down. So here, Speedy the Turtle is here to.
I love that. I love that. And to your point, yeah, it's not like you're saying the words too fast, but here's how I help people slow down. It's mastering the pause. Because you can be real high energy and energetic, but if you come to a stop, now we can hear and you can absorb the message. So don't lose that enthusiasm that you have. That is key. That's a strong point, but just know how to put in the stops so that people can process.
And I know when I do my notes and I'm practicing my presentations, I will actually I call it the music into my presentation. And so I'll have parenthesis pause. And I know that when I'm practicing it, I need to go in my mind 1, 2, 3, and then I can move on. And so, yeah, I love that. Using the pause is so powerful. Speaking of powerful, oh, sorry.
I read something that it was about Obama's speechwriter. And I don't know if it was the speech that he gave when he was president. It might have been, but he wrote it up and he was very nervous, and he read it. Obama read it and said it was perfect. You hit every point. It's perfect. But now I'd like you to put in the pause. I'd like you to find the silence. And he said, I want you to listen to Coltrane, John Coltrane, the jazz musician, and I want you to read James Baldwin literature. And by doing that, he got the sense of the power of the pause and the silences that really give it the impact.
Awesome. I love it. Speaking of love, we do have Linda shared. Thanks, Linda, for commenting. Thank you for sharing ideas on presenting better in virtual environments. I will look into PlexiCam and CenterCam. Great shares. Excellent. And then Robert shared, is it distracting when speakers look too often at notes to stay on course with talking points?
All right. So to answer that, Robert, there's a difference between reading something and referencing something. And so I work with people to learn how to reference. There's no reason that you can't have notes. First of all, it gives you a sense of confidence, and we all lose our train of thought, and it happens more as you get older. I know that. So here's the difference. This is reading. Blah, 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 blah. That's reading, right? So you occasionally look up. Referencing, let me give you the formula for referencing. You look down, you get the idea in your head or the phrase, and then you look up and deliver it out. So it'd be like this. Today is Tuesday and tomorrow will be Wednesday. After Wednesday, it will be Thursday, and then it will be Friday. So you see how I'm picking up the pause. So I look, lift, talk out. Look, lift, talk out. And people will know that you have notes, but they won't feel like you're reading. They will still feel like you know your content. So that would be my recommendation.
Awesome. I love that. And, just as a little, hey, she knows what she's talking about. I promised you a little bit more of Diane's bio. She is actually the past president of the New York City chapter of the National Speakers Association and a former media trainer for both the NBA and the WNBA. She's been featured on CNN, quoted in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, London Guardian, and Investment Business Daily. She's a certified speaking professional. So I mentioned earlier CSP, certified speaking professional. It's a designation held by less than 12% of speakers nationwide, as well as a certified virtual presenter, which you and I both have that one. Let's speak on Zoom. That's where we hang out lately. Her blog, Knockout Presentations, made the top 50 public speaking blogs. And her LinkedIn course, Speaking Confidently and Effectively, ranked number 5 in the 20 most popular courses. So she knows what she's talking about. She is amazing here with her knockout presentations, how to deliver your message with power, punch, and pizzazz. And I love that we've got the punch and the knockout. That is awesome. And you can check her out at Diresta.com. It's there. But I want to kick it back over to you to see any final words, any recommendations, anything that you want to share with the audience on this idea of knockout presentations.
Well, I believe that anybody can be an effective presenter. Another myth is that gifted speakers, or in order to be an effective public speaker, that's a gift. You're born that way. No, you're not. Gifted speakers are born, but even they have to practice. Anybody can be an effective speaker when you know the skills, when you know the tools. So I would recommend that you make a commitment, because this is not going away. You're going to be presenting virtually, and sometimes webinars and virtual presentations are harder than in person. So we've all got to master this. So I would recommend that you continue your learning. There are a number of ways you can do it. One, you can read books. You can attend webinars. You can attend in person. You can volunteer to speak. And you're not off the hook if you say, well, I don't have that opportunity at work. Go to a church or synagogue, volunteer in a school. There are lots of community areas that would love speakers. And also you can hire a coach. So if you have presentations coming up, you can work there. Or sometimes if you work for a company, they may have some in-house training that you can go to. But continually hone your skills. Watch TED Talks. There are some really good speakers, both TED and TEDx. And mentor yourself, find mentors that are people that you want to sound like, and then start to watch what they do. And little by little, take one skill. Maybe you're working on eye contact or pausing or gesturing, and you'll find that you'll be a knockout before you realize it.
I love the idea of watching, of investing in yourself. One of the things I do sometimes when I'm watching presenters, I have my normal notes. However, if they do something that I loved or I really disliked, I usually have like a separate place that I write down what I love and what they did that I didn't like. The bad thing is when what they did that I didn't like is something that I do. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know what? I didn't like it when they did that. Maybe I shouldn't do that either. How do I strike that from my repertoire? So sometimes I can pick up things that they do that I love and dislike and utilize that. I love the idea of working on yourself. Were you always a public speaker?
No, I didn't know I was going to do this. I wanted to be a teacher. There were no teaching jobs. I ended up going into speech pathology, which I did like. I was there for 8 years. And I started volunteering to do teacher training because I liked doing stand-up training. And one thing led to another. I made a career change. I started working with a public speaking company. I worked for Solomon Brothers. Little by little, I started my own business. That's the quick story. But this is years of training. So it takes time. It really takes time.
Yeah, I think it was 2005 when I first got involved in networking. So I was public speaking to do the elevator pitch to promote my business at the time. And I was so afraid of doing it. And sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, Tiffanie, you're so great. And I'm like, I've got a long way to go still. However, I've come a long way, but that's 17 years of work. And I look forward to seeing where I'm at in 17 years. Because sometimes it's like, okay, I'm good now. And then I'm like, yeah, no, I can be.
But you know what?
Better.
There's always a higher level, isn't there?
Yes.
And Tiffanie and I belong to National Speakers Association. And if you've ever gone to one of their national conventions, you will be blown away. The celebrity speakers that you see, they don't even match the high level of these professional speakers. So anytime either one of us thinks we're really good,
yeah,
you go there and you get humble very fast.
Yes, you do. So Diane, I so appreciate you being here today to help us talk about how we can have our knockout presentations. If people want to connect with you, where can we find you online? Where can we find you if we need some help with our next presentation?
Okay, Diresta.com. That's the best way to contact me. You can send an email through DIRESTA, Diresta.com. And please link in with me, but tell me that you saw me on Tiffany's show, because a lot of people link in and they're just collecting numbers. But hi, I saw you on Tiffany's show. Yes, then I will connect with you on LinkedIn. I love to connect. And certainly take a look at Knockout Presentations. You can buy it at Barnes & Noble or online.
Excellent. So we do just have Andrea shared, always great, Diane. And I have to echo that. This has been an amazing opportunity for us to share, to really focus on how to give knockout presentations. And if for no other reason you want to give knockout presentations so the audience likes you, and as Diane mentioned earlier, isn't bored by what you just shared, you want to keep us there, keep us engaged, be simple, maybe that theme of 3, so that you can create your success and have knockout presentations. So thank you so much, Diane, for being here with us today. And we look forward to hopefully having you back again soon.
Thank you, Tiffanie.
Thank you. Happy networking.